Hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Teacher Carmen. I'm from the Mathematics Department in Mind Stretcher. All right, today together with me, I actually have Teacher Michael Lee with me. However, he is facing some kind of technical issue, so his camera is not working. But I can assure you that he is right behind the laptop and he will be able to help answer questions in the Q&A. All right. Okay, so if any one of you have any questions along the way as I'm going to present today's session, you can type in the Q&A and Teacher Michael will be answering you through the Q&A. All right. Okay, we have quite a handful of you here today. Okay, so it's primary 5 and primary 6 session today, right? So can I have a show of hand? How many of you are primary 6 this year or parents of primary 6 students? So I can roughly have a sense to see if we have more primary 6 or do we have more primary 5s? If you are primary 6 or if you are a parent of a primary 6 child, can you raise your hand? Uh, there's only a few. So okay, thank you. Thank you for those who raise your hands. Okay, thank you. Okay. So there's about 6 of you. So can I assume that the rest of you are in primary 5 now? Okay, so I'll just assume that the rest of you are in primary 5. So, okay, there are primary 5 and primary 6 students and parents here with me today. Okay, thank you very much for your response. Okay, I see some of you putting in the chat also. Thank you so much. Okay, let me open up my slides for today. Okay, yeah. So today's session is to help you get a strong start. Those most of you are in primary 5 this year. Okay, so primary 5 is going to be accepted from primary 4, where you will start to see that we gear you to prepare you for PSLE, sometimes in terms of your assessment formats and the type of questions that you see generally longer. They will be longer in primary 5. Okay, and you will start to have 2 papers, right? In your maybe in your end of year exam, you will start to see paper 1 and paper 2, usually in the PSLE format, right? To gear you up for PSLE. And those of you who are in P6, you should have experienced 2 papers in primary 5, right? Okay, so primary 6 is the final few topics that you are going to learn in the first semester, term 1 and term 2. And then we will start preparing you for prelims, preparing you for the actual PSLE math paper. Okay, so today, what will we be sharing? Okay, so this is a math session. So we'll be focusing only on math. All right, number 1, we'll be talking about the MOE syllabus. Okay, as most of you know, if you are in primary 6 this year, you are the first batch of the new syllabus, right? So your PSLE format will be different from last year. Again, you are going to be the first batch. So if you look at the 3-year series, and if you look at past year school papers, you will realize that the exam format is going to be a bit different from what you will be sitting this year, right? So this year, PSLE, the format will be a new format, a totally new format, right? And for those of you who are in primary 5, you are the second batch. Okay, the second batch. Right, so that's what we're going to look at, the syllabus change, the assessment objective. Like I mentioned earlier, the assessment objective, the format of the paper is slightly different. All right, so we're looking at some trends in PE. Okay, and as well as My Stretcher curriculum, okay, how we also adjust our My Stretcher math worksheets in line with the MOE revision of the syllabus, right? So we also make adjustment to our curriculum. And you have a question, you can ask in the Q&A, okay? Okay, so let's go into the MOE syllabus review. All right. Uh, be something primary five. Okay. Sorry, I think my camera is stuck, is it? Okay, should be better now. Okay, thank you. All right, so that's what you're gonna do in primary five. Percentage and rate will be something new that you will be doing. Okay, fractions, whole number, decimals, you have learned them. It's just that you'll be learning more about fractions. Okay, multiplication of fractions. Decimals, you have learned that in primary four. You're gonna learn more about decimals in primary five. Right. Six. That's just a new thing that you're gonna learn, which is algebra. All right, but don't worry, the algebra in primary school is very basic, very foundational. Okay, you do not need to learn uh anything too complicated about algebra until you go to secondary school. Right, so in primary six, the algebra is just it's probably just 3 to 5% of the whole PSLE paper. All right. Okay, then again, we're going to work on fractions, more on percentage and ratio and average. Right, so you'll learn about ratio and average in primary six. Right, okay, so number right. Measurements and geometry. For the measurements and geometry, in primary five, you are going to learn about area of triangle. Okay, you're gonna learn how to find the area of triangle, volume of cubes and cuboids. You'll be introduced to the topic of angles. Okay, and after angles, you will learn more about triangles, angles in the triangles. Okay, angle in the triangle, parallelogram, rhombus, and trapeziums. Okay, these are the different four-sided figures, right? Parallelogram, rhombus, and trapezium. And in primary six, that's another shape that you're gonna learn. Circles, okay, how to find the area of circle, how to find the circumference of circle, okay? Just in case you don't know what is circumference, circumference actually just means the perimeter. Okay, so the outline of a circle has a special name. It's called circumference, right? Okay, so then again, you see volume and cube, volume of cube and cuboid, yeah, in primary five and in primary six. So in primary five, the questions are more basic and more straightforward. In primary six, they start to have more variations in the cube and cuboids. Okay, it could be cube and cuboid combined together, and more intermediate questions about the cube and cuboids. Okay, and special quadrilaterals, the angles in four-sided figures. Okay, it's a continuation from primary five. Okay, where you learned angles in triangles, parallelogram, rhombus, and trapezium, right? So in primary six, it will be a continuation. The diagrams you see may not be so straightforward in primary six. Okay, can. So that's the extra thing that you're gonna learn in primary six. And then okay, some key changes to syllabus. So what I have just shown you before in the numbers and in the geometry trend in the previous two slides, those are already the updated syllabus. So one thing to note is average used to be a primary five topic. Okay, average used to be a primary five topic. Okay, so those of you who are in primary six this year, okay, those of you who are in primary six this year, you may have heard your seniors talking about average and ratio in primary five. Okay, they learned average and ratio in primary five, but you didn't learn them. How come the whole primary five year went past already, but you didn't learn anything about ratio and average? That's because ratio and average have been shifted to primary six. Okay, so you are only going to learn average and ratio in primary six. Okay, in the past, it used to be in primary five, now it's in primary six. Okay, and another difference is, you're in primary six this year, you are not going to learn about speed. Okay, some you may have heard of senior talk about speed is quite difficult. I don't understand the topic of speed. Okay, then don't worry. Okay, it's going to be a problem in Sec 1. Okay, not a problem for PSLE because the whole topic on speed has been removed from primary math syllabus. All right, you're not going to learn about speed in primary school anymore. All right, and another topic which you have already learned, which is pie charts and nets. It used to be only taught in primary 6, but you have already learned it in primary 4. Okay, you have already learned about pie charts and nets, okay, in primary 4, right? So the good news is here, in primary 6, you actually don't need to learn about speed, don't need to learn about pie chart, don't need to learn about nets. Because speed is cancelled. Pie charts and nets you already learned in primary 4, right? So that's why you can learn average and ratio in primary 6, right? Okay, so these are the key changes to the syllabus, primary 5 and primary 6 syllabus, right? Okay, let's talk about the assessment objectives and the format of the PSLE paper. Okay, not only the topics shifted, the format of the paper is also going to be different starting from this year, right? Those of you who are primary 6, you will be the first batch to take the PSLE in this new format that I'm going to show later, right? Okay, assessment. Assessment, what is the purpose of your exam paper, your PSLE? They actually split the assessment into 3 different objectives. Okay, there are 3 different main thing that they want you to test on, right? Okay. Someone is commenting that my words are breaking at some point.
Yeah, I think it's the internet issue.
My internet issue, is
Yeah,
it?
correct.
Um, check. Um, is it better now? Okay. I switched to another network. I hope it's better.
Yeah, sure. Let's continue.
Okay, can thank you. Okay, here. There are 3 assessment objectives that we are having. Number 1, okay, is the AO1. So AO1 questions usually test you on the basic mathematical fact, the basic mathematical concepts, some basic rules. It could be just area of a circle or area of a triangle. Or to perform very straightforward computation, like those that you learn in primary 5, order of operations, right? Do you do brackets first before you do multiplication, division, and before you do addition, subtraction? Just straightforward computations, basic algebra procedures. Okay, the algebra I mentioned in primary school, the algebra that you learn, they are quite basic. Okay, so all this basic foundational things where you just need to recall the formula, do the straightforward computations. These are all classified under assessment objective 1. Okay, and usually they will carry 1 mark or 2 marks. Okay, and these are the marks that you should secure. Okay, these are the 1 and 2 marks that you should put inside your pocket. When you see this kind of question, you should be very happy. Just apply the formula, get the mark, and make sure you secure them. Okay, so you should be able to get.
It's still breaking up, Carmen.
Was or the previous one, is it better?
It's a bit soft.
This one now is a bit soft, is it?
Okay, now it's normal again.
Now it's normal again. Okay, maybe the fan is moving, so let me just stop the oscillation. Let's try it. This is okay.
Your voice is still breaking now.
Phone. Yeah, microphone issue. Let me try and see if can hit set. Okay, I'm using a headset now. Let's see if this will be better. Okay, assessment objective 2 will require you to interpret information and apply mathematical concepts in a variety of contexts. So they will give you some context. So it could be having names, and there will be like buying apples and oranges. Okay. So you are supposed to interpret and decide, like, should you do plus, minus, times, or divide? Or is there any specific techniques that you need to apply to get to apply the correct concept to answer questions, right? So AO2 questions usually about 2 to 3 marks. Okay, 2 to 3 marks. This will happen. This can uh, come out in your MCQ, the last 8 questions where they are all 8 marks. Okay, or it could come out in your short answer questions where you are required to show 1, 2, or 3 steps to get the final answer. All right, these are your AO2 and your AO3 questions. AO3 questions usually they are not so straightforward. Okay, you need to read the information carefully, and you need to do some kind of analyzing. It could be they give you a line graph and a table, and you are supposed to analyze the information from the line graph and table and answer the questions that follow. Okay, this is what they mean by analyze information, make influences. Okay, and you need to select the appropriate strategy. Okay, what is the correct heuristics to use? Okay, what is the correct power codes to use to help you solve this kind of problem? And because this kind of problem they are not so straightforward, it requires you to understand the information. It requires you to analyze and choose the correct solving technique. It usually comes with more marks. It could be 3 to 5 marks. And this will usually happen in the paper two. Okay, we'll find most of the paper two questions will be AO3. Although it can sometimes happen in MCQ also, maybe one at most 2 questions. That is all this kind of level in MCQ. But main bulk of the AO3 questions they are usually found in your paper two. Okay, so these are the 3 different types of assessment objectives. So you see, from the basic recalling to something where you need to analyze and select appropriate strategy to solve, right? So these are the 3 different assessment objectives that we have for PSLE math papers, right? Now this over here is the examination format, which I mentioned. Primary 6 students this year is your first year. It's the first year where PSLE will take this format. PSLE Maths will take this format. Okay, in paper 1, you will be given 1 hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, in the past it was only 1 hour for paper 1. Okay, but now you have 1 hour and 10 minutes. Okay, why? Because there are now more questions in paper 1, and paper 1 has carries more marks now. All right. Now, paper 1, the first 10 questions, they are all the 1 mark MCQ questions. So most of them will be the AO1 type of questions where you need to recall basic facts, basic formulas, right? Basic algebra, very straightforward questions. And everyone should aim to get the first 10 questions in paper 1 correct. Should aim to get the first 10 marks correct. Okay, 10 marks in your pocket. And the next 8 MCQ questions will be 2 marks each. Okay, next 8 MCQ questions. That means question 11 to question 18, there will be 2 marks each. It's still MCQ, okay, but maybe it require you to think a little bit more. This will be the AO2 and the AO3 type of question. Okay, AO2 and AO3 type of question. So that's another 16 marks. So usually these 8 questions, there will be some kind of context in it. Right? You need to understand the information given. And then in paper 1, you also have your booklet B, where you need to show some working and write down the final answer. Okay, that's your short answer question. Okay, there will be 12 of them, and all of them will be 2 marks each. Okay, 12 short answer question, 2 marks each. That will give you 24 marks. So in total, your paper one will be 50 marks. Okay, 50% of your PSLE maths weightage, so it's half of it. Okay, the PSLE math paper is a total of 100 marks. The paper one is 50 marks. You got 1 hour, 10 minutes to do it. 18 MCQ and 12 short answer. So remember, for your short answer, you need to show your steps clearly. Okay, you cannot just write down the final answer. You need to show a step how you get the answer. Right, that's for the short answer. There's a change in the format. That is units will be given. Okay, so in paper one and paper two, both paper one and paper two, units will be given in the final answer. So you only need to fill in the answer. The units will already be there. So it's a good thing for students who often forget to write the units. Okay, but it's also a double-edged sword. Okay, since the units are given to you, you need to make sure that you are answering in the correct unit. So for example, if the unit given to you is in kilometers, it's in km, okay, then you need to make sure when you are doing your calculation, you are giving your final answer in km also. Okay, so you cannot give your answer in cm or meter. It must be the same as the units given to you. You cannot cross out the unit and write cm, cross out the unit and write meter. No. Okay, if they give you km, means your answer must be in km. Okay. And next, paper two. Paper two will start off with 5 short answer questions. Okay, they are also worth 2 marks each. Okay, so it will be similar to what you have in paper one. Okay, usually they are quite easy to score. These first 5 questions in paper two, they are usually your AO2 questions. Okay, quite easy to score this first 10 marks. And then you will have another 10 questions. And these 10 questions, they will have a variety of marks. It could be 3 marks, 4 marks, or 5 marks. Now, in recent PSLE, most of the 5 marks question wouldn't be just one question by itself. Most of the time, they will actually break it down. So there would be like part A, part B, or sometimes even part C. And most of the time, the long answer questions, this 5 marks question, they will break it down in such a way that after you answer part A, it's supposed to lead you to answering part B. Okay, and part A and part B, they're supposed to help you in answering part C. Okay, so in a way, if you go through the question part by part, it's helping you to understand the information given better. Okay, so try not to skip the parts and try to follow, answer part A first, then part B, then part C. Right? So you see, in paper two, the total marks again, 10 marks plus 40 marks is a total of another 50. Okay, so the weightage is half in paper one and half in paper two. So is paper one important? Yes, paper two also important, equally important, because they are both worth 50 marks each and makes up your total 100 marks. Right? So because the questions in paper two, the last 10 questions, they are longer. Okay, usually they have more words, require you to analyze more. So there's an extra 10 minutes given to you. So 1 hour, 20 minutes. Again, you realize that there's lesser questions in paper two also. Paper two only have a total of 15 questions, whereas paper one, there were 30 questions. Right? Okay, so in total, you will have 2 hour 30 minutes. So what happened is, usually you will sit for your paper one first, then you will submit your paper one, you go for your break, and then you will come back for a paper two. Okay, most of the time it's on the same day. Okay, that's the PSLE format that is going to take place starting from this year. Okay, so this one I have already mentioned.
earlier just now, right? The 1 mark question in MCQ are the basic straightforward questions. Okay, here's an example. 230 times 16. This is testing you on two-digit multiplication, something that you have learned in primary 4. Okay, how to multiply a number by a two-digit number. Right, so this is just application of the multiplication algorithm. Right, you just have to multiply them, get the correct answer, get the 1 mark. Right. Okay. That's why I mentioned the 8 marks MCQ. Okay. 8 marks MCQ. So it could be AO2 or AO3. AO3 maybe just 1 or 2. Maybe question 17 or question 18. It could be non-routine type of question where you'll be required to think more. Okay. If not, then it shouldn't be an issue for your AL2 question. Okay. Here's an example. Bala used 44 tags to pin his drawing side by side. How many drawings did he pin altogether? Okay, so this one is actually can be solved by using gaps and intervals. Okay, but it is not so straightforward. It's not the usual way how they ask a gaps and interval question. This was actually a non-routine type of question. Came out in 2021. It's an MCQ question. Okay, it was a 2 mark question. Okay, so here's an example of a AO3 question where you need to analyze the picture, read the information, and you need to come up with an appropriate strategy to solve it. Right? Okay, so you would probably see only 1 or 2 question of this difficulty level, AO3 in MCQ. Okay, if not, other than that, you should score all the other marks in MCQ. Right. Okay, so all the units are provided. This one I have already mentioned. Okay, here, if units is required, they will provide the unit. So in this question, cm square is provided. So make sure when you're answering the question, your answer is in cm square and it's not in meter square. Okay. Here's an example of a AO3 question, which came out in 2021 PSLE. It came out as a 2 mark question. All right. It was a non-routine question because at that year, students have not seen any questions like this before. Okay, but after that, in my structure, we actually did modify this question, and most of our my structure students have seen similar question to this now, right? Where you compare and replace to solve this problem, right? It was a non-routine. It was an AO3 question, right? It could be a 2 marks question. Okay, so it doesn't mean that all the difficult questions are in the last 10 question. It doesn't mean that it's 3, 4, 5 marks question. Sometimes it could be a 1 mark or a 2 mark question, right? Usually the last one or the last two. Okay. Okay, yeah, this one I haven't mentioned really in detail. Your 3, 4, 5 marks question, you must show how you solve the question. Okay, you need to write your equations clearly. Okay, you need to write your equations clearly, even if it's just a 6 minus 4 equals to 2. Okay, if that is how you got a 2, you need to show it down clearly. Okay, so the examiner know that you know what you are doing. Okay, then must show your method of solution clearly in order to get the full marks. Okay, and units will also be provided, right? In the whole paper, in paper 1 and paper 2, every question, units will be provided, right? So just make sure your answer is computed in the correct units. Okay, now in PSLE trend, the questions these days you could have seen from the examples, a few examples I shown earlier, that they require you to have some kind of thinking out of the box. right? What we call the non-routine questions, right? There may be questions that you have never seen before. You need to understand the information and come up with an appropriate strategy to solve them. Okay, it could sometimes be something you have learned, but they are not asked in the usual way, right? So you need to be able to think out of the box. So what does this mean? This means that when you are learning a heuristics, okay, when you are learning a power codes from our mind stretcher worksheet from our weekly program, you do not just simply memorize the steps. You need to understand why you do certain steps. Okay, you need to understand the rationale behind us doing the certain steps. Okay, that will enable you to think when the question is not given to you in the usual way. That will enable you to understand what steps you should take to solve the problem given to you in the exam, which is different from how it was being usually asked. Okay. Someone is asking a question. Let me answer this. Someone is asking, are P1 to P3 topics just foundational and no need to revise? I would say that yes, primary 1 to primary 3 mathematics, they are the foundation built, right? So what you learn in primary 1 to primary 3, multiplication table, division table, and some word problems like comparison word problem, part whole model, unitary model, sometimes you learn them in primary 3. Okay. I wouldn't say that there is no need to revise because these are the foundation that helped you in your primary 4. So do you remember when you are in primary 4, some of the things that you do, they are a build up from your primary 1 to primary 3? Yeah. So in fact, you are doing uh additional things on top of what you have learned in primary 1 to primary 3. Okay. So that means to say you do not have to really go back and solve a primary 1, primary 2 question. Okay, because it is assumed that you have already mastered it at primary 5 and primary 6 level. Okay, at primary 5 and primary 6 level, you will still be doing multiplication, you will still be doing division. Okay, just that if you know if at primary 5, if you are at primary 5 level, but you still don't know how to do two-digit multiplication that was taught in primary 4, then that you have to go back to your primary 4 worksheet and go and relearn how to do two-digit multiplication. Okay, so that is something that you might need to go back and learn that. Or if you are in primary 6, but you forgot how to do multiplication of two fractions, then you might have to go back to your primary 5 worksheet and look at how to multiply two fractions. Okay, that is something that you might need to go back. If not, then I would say it's safe for you to just practice primary 5 and primary 6 papers. Okay, Ken, I hope that answer the question. Right. Okay, let's come back here on the latest trend in maths question. Uh, application question based on basic concept. Okay, so it could be it could be a concept on it could be a basic concept. Let's say it's algebra. Okay. Basic algebra we learn is how to add two terms, how to write them when you are supposed to multiply. Okay, let's say there are 5 students and each student have a number of pencils. Okay, so how many pencils are there altogether? So the basic concept would be you multiply the number of people by the number of pencils they have. Right, it's a multiplication. Okay, but why is it an application question? Because there is a context in it, right? They are talking about number of people and they're talking about number of pencils. But the basic concept is still the same. It's still multiply 5 times a. And there's algebra in it. You are supposed to write your final answer as 5a. Okay, so it's a basic concept on how to write 5 times A equals to 5A. Okay, and it's an application question because that's concept. Right. Okay, so oh yeah, another trend in PSLE maths. The third point over here, combination of skills strategy. Well, this is getting very popular in recent PSLE questions. As we know, as I look through the PSLE questions every year, I see that there is this trend where in part A they require you to maybe use gaps and intervals to solve. Okay, this heuristics called gaps and intervals to solve. And then you are probably given 1 or 2 marks. Then in part B, the question and the information tweak a little bit. It's on the same context, part A, part B is still on the same context. However, you would be required to use assumption method to solve. And then you are given the last 2 or 3 marks. Yeah, it's possible that the question will come out this way. In part A, you use one technique. In part B, you use another technique to solve. Another power codes, another heuristics to solve. That's the trend that we see in the recent PSLE problem. This is what we mean by combination of skills and strategy, right? In the past, usually one question you will only need to use one heuristic to solve. Yeah, but because now I mentioned they will break down, right? Part A, part B. So sometimes in one context they will ask about different things which require you to use different strategies to solve. Okay, that's why I mentioned earlier the first one, critical thinking skill. Don't just memorize the steps, right? You need to understand the rationale behind each step so that when they tweak it, sometimes you don't start from step 1 because it may be that step 1 have already been answered in part A. Then you need to start from step 2. So this is what happens if you understand the rationale behind every step, then you will know how to tweak to solve. Right? The next point relate to real life experiences. That means there's some kind of real life context in PSLE question. An example I can think of would be the topic on number sense. I think later I have an example also that relate to real life experiences. They could be testing you on your number sense to ask you about what is the likely height of a door, right? So we open and close a door. We pass through doors every day, right? Every day we will pass through a door. But do you know what is the height of the door? Or we see buses every day. Do you know how long is the SBS bus, the Tower Transit bus? How long is the bus? Right? Okay, so this is actually testing you on the topic of length in real life to make sense of the number. Do you really know what is 1 meter? How long is 1 meter? How long is 2 meter? Do you know some students when I ask them in class, they don't even know how tall they are. Okay, I think one very good way to estimate length is to know your own height. Sometimes we measure our height in centimeters, but we can also convert it into meters, right? So most of primary 5 and primary 6 students, I'm not sure because some students are very tall these days, okay? But I think 1.5 meters, right? Most of the students, primary 5, primary 6 students are about 1.5 meters, 150 centimeters, right? So you try and stand uh, go through a door and you see how much higher is the door than you. Okay. To give you context, if you live in a HDB flat, uh, from your room floor to your room ceiling, that's about 3 meters. Okay, your room floor to your room ceiling, each level in a HDB is about 3 meters. Yeah, so your door height probably is about 2.5 meter. Okay, can I leave you to go and find out how long is a bus. Okay, this is on length. It could also be on mass. They could also ask you about how heavy is a school bag. Don't tell me it's 50 kg. Yeah, I don't think. Most of you are not even 50 kg at the primary 6, primary 5 level. Okay, so you know your own height. You know roughly how heavy is your school bag. Okay, can. The last point, revise primary 4 to primary 6 topic. I think I touched on this just now. When someone asked the question about revising P1 to P3 topics, right? I mentioned if you need two-digit multiplication, you go back to P4. If you need multiplication of fractions, you go to P5. Okay, if you need division of fractions, you go to P6. Okay. Okay. This is an example of the question. Real life application question, which require you to know about height. It came out in PSLE 2020. Okay, something similar to what the example I gave you earlier on the height of door. Right, this one is asking about the height of bookshelf. Okay, how long is 1 cm? Look at your ruler. Look at your ruler. You know how long is 1 cm. 1 meter. I don't think school nowadays they have the 1 meter long ruler anymore. Okay. But you can look at the measuring tape if you have measuring tape. Okay, look at how long is 1 meter. Okay, if not, then you use your height to estimate how high is 1 meter. Okay, or when you take the MRT train, you can see the little girl over there. The 0.9 meter. You know, if you are 0.9 meter in Singapore, you need to tap a card to go into the MRT. You need to tap a card for bus rides. When you go past the MRT, you try and look for the little girl. That's 0.9 meter, close to 1 meter. Okay, that's how high 1 meter is. All right. Pattern questions. I think most of you have seen at least once in your math journey, now at primary 5, primary 6 level, you have seen something like this at least one. Maybe not so many parts. It could be a 2 marks question, okay, with lesser parts. All right, this is on patterns. This question came out in 2019. It was a paper 2 question, one of the last one or last 2 questions, where they combine patterns together with percentage. You see part C, they're asking for percentage. And in fact, part A is leading you to understand the diagram better, understand the pattern better. Right? Part A asks you to fill up, it should be table, fill the table above. Okay? Part A should be table. Okay, they want you to fill up the table. What's the purpose of this question? The purpose of this question is to make sure you are reading the information from the table, you study the diagram. Okay, so you get part A correct by counting the triangles from the picture. Okay, analyzing what is the pattern, right? So you need to do that in before you can even answer part B and part C, right? Then part B, they ask you something about figure 250. Of course, you don't draw figure 250. That would be too huge and too time consuming to do that. And even if you really had the time to draw figure 250, there may be some calculation error, right? Okay, so the main purpose of this part B is really for you to be able to solve by finding out the pattern. Okay, and you can see that part B, they are asking for the total number of triangles, and in part C, they ask for the percentage of gray triangle. Now, how are you able to find the percentage of gray triangle? You need to have the number of gray triangle and the total number of triangles, right? So that would have been found in part B also, total number of triangles. So you see part B is to help you with part C as well, right? So the questions are quite leading on, right? The pattern question, okay, so let's look at the next one. In 2020, this question came out and many students actually were not able to solve this. They didn't realize that it is a pattern question. Okay, so this is a variation of how questions can be asked, where you need to think out of the box and select the appropriate strategy to use to solve. Right? Yeah, this one again. require you to, this is something that require you to analyze the information. You are given a graph, you are given a table, right? So you don't only have to read the graph, read the table, okay, you need to analyze, okay, compare the information in this two. This is called data analysis, getting very popular in PSLE math these days, right? Okay, it came out again 2020. You are given two graphs, you need to analyze the graphs and compare the information. Okay, applied learning. This one is the graph shows the amount of water that flow from a tap. So how much water will flow in 32 minutes? But you'll realize that in the graph, they only show you up to 7 minutes, right? So you need to analyze, okay, what will happen in 32 minutes. Yep. Okay, another applied learning, something that may happen in real life, okay, a real life situation, taking a taxi. Okay, how much would the taxi fare be? You need to read the information from the graph. Okay, the first 2 kilometer will be at the standard price. Okay, then after that, from 2 kilometer to 4 kilometer, it's a different rate, and from 4 kilometer to 10 kilometer is a different rate. So you need to understand the information that the line graph is trying to tell you, so as to be able to answer the questions. Okay, right. So applied learning, these are more of the real life application question. So it's not something that you can solve by just memorizing steps. It really need you to understand the context of the question. All right. Okay. So they are usually your AO2 questions. These are usually your AO2 questions. Right. This type of question where you see true, false, and not possible to tell is also getting trendy. And most of you should have seen at least once this kind of question in your practice, right? So you need to read the information given, read the table, and the statement, some of them can be solved. Okay, some of them you can do working, you solve, and you will know whether it's true or false. But why is there a column not possible to tell? It is because there's not enough information. So the answer may be true, it may also be false. Yeah, so when that is the case, we would say that is not possible to tell, right? Okay, so we adapted this question from 2018. I see that algebra was incorporated in this question. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, next one. Non-routine question. This is on pattern. It's a star, star, heart, and then star, star, heart, and then again star, star, heart. So from this question, students are expected to recognize that they have to use the grouping method to solve this question. Okay, whereby they have to uh, they have to look at the picture and decide what is the pattern in one day. Okay, they have to decide that it's star, heart in one group. And then the pattern repeats again, right? To be able to solve this question. Okay. This one, square is divided into A and D, okay? And there's two rectangle, B and C. Okay, this question talk about the perimeter of B and C. Okay, so maybe I just discuss a little bit. The perimeter of B and C. So perimeter of B, we have this part. Okay, and we also have this part, right? And you realize that here is actually the same as here because it's a square, right? A is a square. Okay, and you realize that this part of B is actually same as this part because D is also a square. Okay, so if you use a similar way, to look at rectangle C. Okay, the perimeter of rectangle C will be here, here. Okay, this part, which is the same as the side of D, right? D is a square. And this part, which is the same as the side of A. So you can see the perimeter, the total perimeter of B and C is actually, in fact, the perimeter of the big square. Yeah, so since it is the perimeter of the big square, these two sides are equal, so we can just divide by 4, and this side is 12. Okay, then from there we can continue to solve. Right. Okay, these are the non-routine questions. Helen and Ivan question. It was very popular the year this question was tested. It became very popular for, I think, the next 2 years. Everyone was talking about the Helen and Ivan question. It was a non-routine question. Many students cried that year because they didn't understand how to solve this question. Yeah. Okay. Non-routine. So there are many non-routine questions that I actually display today. But don't worry, it will not all come out in one question. Okay. Usually there will be at most two questions or two of this non-routine question that will happen in your PSLE paper, right? So the reason why there will be this kind of non-routine question is because they want to differentiate the AL1s and the AL2s from the AL3. Okay, you realize that the score range, the design of the score range is for AL1, for you to score AL1 and AL2, you need to get the score right for almost every question, right? So those who are able to solve all the AO1, AO2 questions and able to even solve unseen non-routine questions, right? That's how you differentiate yourself from the rest. Okay, the routine questions you can get them correct, okay, and questions that you have never seen before, you are also able to come up with the appropriate strategy to solve them and get them correct. That sets you apart from the rest. So that will put you in AL1 or AL2. Right, so that's the reason for all these non-routine questions that you see I have been presenting for the last 10 minutes. Okay, question like this. Okay, so what we do in my structure, is we do prepare you for this kind of non-routine question, but the main bulk of the marks, don't forget, the main bulk of your marks still come from your routine question. Non-routine question is only one or two. To differentiate you, are you going to get AL3, AL1, or AL2? Right? So the main bulk, in order for you to get AL1, AL2, you still need to get your basics and your foundations all correct, right? So most importantly, you have to get your AO1, AO2 questions correct first, right? So what we have in my structure is closely designed to supplement the MOE syllabus, and we have our concept paper, our problem solving paper. Concept paper will teach you the basic concepts. Okay, the top start of every topic. So if it's an area of triangle, we will teach you what is area of triangle, how to identify the height and base, okay, how to apply the formula. And if you look at problem solving for area of triangle, maybe the triangle is cut into different parts. Okay, a triangle is inside a rectangle. Then how do you find the area? Okay, these are the problem solving that we have. MS Power Codes could be like we teach you technique, how to solve gaps and intervals question, how to identify and solve assumption method, like when you should apply a comparison unitary model, when you should apply the Power Codes units and parts. Okay, we will teach you how to read the information from the question. Okay, identify what is the correct technique to use and apply the Power Codes. Like I mentioned earlier, understand every step so you are able to tweak when the question also tweak. Right. So we also have trending questions where we modify recent PSLE questions that are trendy, that you usually don't find in concept paper or problem solving. So that part, the training question part, is to prepare you for the non-routine type of question. Okay, so you see, we cover the basic concept concept paper. We teach you how to solve usual problems. Okay, we teach you how to solve problems using the usual heuristics. Okay, which are considered the you need to learn the appropriate strategy, right? That's the power codes. And also we prepare you for the non-routine question using training question worksheets, right? And for students who are in our HA program, we have this component called the cranium cracker, where we stretch your mind even more. Okay, we stretch your mind even more. We add in more information. We make the question more challenging. Sometimes it may have some math Olympia question in it. Okay, to make you challenge you even further. Okay, and last but not all, every week our worksheet will be supplemented with a homework booster, where you go back and self-practice what you have learned. Okay, it could be what you have learned from that week. It could be what you have learned from previous weeks. Okay, to have a recap and to see if you're able to apply your learnings independently by yourself. So homework booster, don't say because it's not covered in class you don't need to do. No, it's for you to check your learning. Okay, after you have completed it, you can check the answers on eStudy Buddy. All right. And sometimes our worksheet could be hands-on experience lesson to let you have a few of mathematics and real life. Okay, that's only I think one or at most two in the whole year. Okay, and across the whole year, we always have topical revision and revision paper. Right after every 2 to 3 topics, we will have a topical revision to revise what you have learned. It's like a summing up of the topic. Okay, uh, to help you internalize the concepts that you need to learn. And when it's near to a checkpoint, we will have a revision paper, most of the time in the format of a test paper, to prepare you for the assessment. Okay, and if there's an assessment, like your mid-year checkpoint and your end of year checkpoint for primary 5, primary 6 you don't have end of year checkpoint. You'll be doing your prelims. Okay. After this checkpoint, we will come up with a progress report, whereby there will be an analysis of your stronger topics and the topics that you need to work on. Okay, you will be able to see the breakdown. For each topic, are you only able to answer basic questions, or you are able to answer basic, intermediate, and advanced questions? Okay, so there will be a detailed report based on how you do for the assessment checkpoint. Right, so my structural students, take every checkpoint seriously, because then the progress report will be meaningful to you. Right, so prepare for every mind structure checkpoint, just like how you will prepare for your weighted assessment in school. Right, so once you receive the progress report, it will be meaningful. You know which are the areas you need to work on, okay, to improve. Right. Okay. Here's an example of what we have in our primary 5 and primary 6 worksheets. Okay, my structure students would realize our power codes has this structure whereby we teach you how to understand the problem. Okay, highlight and notate. Okay, what is known. Okay, what information the question gives you, and what is the question asking you for. Okay, and then how do you identify what is the correct power codes to use, right? What is the characteristics of the power codes? Okay, how do you know that you need to apply these power codes? And also, our problem after the example, we will have one question where you will be guided. Okay, this is called the Pathfinder. Okay, we will guide you step by step. Okay, step 1, what do you have to do first? Step two, what do you then find? So many students actually found this step-by-step guide, this Pathfinder template, very useful, because it helps them when they are referring to the example. They can understand the example even better, right? When they have a template to help them to solve a similar question, but with different numbers and sometimes slightly different contexts. Okay, using the similar power because they found that it's easier for them to solve, and also because they sometimes refer back to the example, they can understand that power course even better. Then it will be accompanied by another one or two questions, which is not guided. You don't have this template. You're supposed to apply what you have learned from the example and the pathfinder. Okay. Right. So example over here, you have usually the third question will be something more challenging, where we will make some tweaks to the question. Now this is where we mentioned you don't just memorize the steps, understand each steps. Yeah, so that when the question tweak to look different from what you have learned, you also know which step you need to tweak. Okay, that's where the challenge yourself come from. And at the end of the worksheet, most of our weekly worksheet, we have this quick quiz where we will test you on one of the concepts that you have learned that week. Okay, to test you whether you remember how to apply the concepts. Okay. All right, so here are some examples of what we have. Trending question, remember just now I mentioned in PSLE, true, false, not possible to tell questions. They are getting trendy. We also incorporate them in our My Structure worksheet. Okay, this is a screenshot of our My Structure worksheet. Yeah, whereby we prepare students for the non-routine type of questions. Okay, the trendy type of questions. Right. This is a trendy PSLE question that we have incorporated in, again, our primary 6 worksheet. Okay. Yeah, there's a common mistake that students make is to find the total length of wrapping paper needed, right? But in fact, when we wrap a present, we don't use the short leftover part of a wrapping paper to combine with another short leftover part of a wrapping paper, right? The short leftover part of the wrapping paper will be thrown away. Yeah, so that is why the common mistake over here is wrong. You shouldn't find the total length first. In fact, you should find out, in one piece of wrapping paper, how many presents can you wrap? Yeah, before deciding on the number of wrapping papers, number of rolls of wrapping paper you need. Okay. Yeah, so we will explain this kind of question in class, and students will internalize, the reasoning. Now, we will not see this just once. You probably will see them a few times in our My Structure worksheet. Then every time the teacher will explain the reason, why you cannot make this common mistake and what is the correct solution. Yeah, so hopefully when you see this in the exam, you remember the reason your teacher tell you. Okay, and don't make the common mistake. Okay, and this is an example of cranium cracker in our My Structure worksheet for the HA program, where you have something from Math Olympia, okay, evaluating a fraction like this, right? Or it could be angles in polygons, right? To twist your mind a little more, challenge your mind a little more. Okay. So at this point in time, I think that's what I have to present for today. Does any one of you have any question? I think there was one question that was answered by Teacher Michael in the Q&A. So if there's any question, you can ask them in the chat now. Anyone have any question? Or you have already asked them during the presentation? Yeah, okay, there's a question coming in. Okay, how many past PSLE papers to practice? Okay, there's a parent who is a parent or student, I'm not sure, who's asking for the number of PSLE paper to practice. I don't think there is a fixed number to this question, because every student is different. Yeah, some students need to practice more paper, some students need to practice less paper. So this one, Elsa, I think maybe it would be best if you present this question maybe to the teacher who is teaching your child. so he or she may understand your child better and will be able to give you a better advice from there. Okay, can Elsa? Yeah, because there's no fixed number. It really depends on every child. Yeah, and there's another question coming in. What is the difference between short answer in paper one and paper two? Okay, thank you for this question. Yes, you realized earlier during my presentation, there's short answer question in paper one, and there's also short answer question in paper two, right? Uh, so what is the difference? Usually paper one will have more of the AO1 type of question, yeah, and paper two will have more of the AO2 and AO3 type of questions, yeah. So there's not really huge, not really a huge difference. But most of the time the paper one questions are easier. Yeah. But the last question in paper one could be a non-routine question. Yeah, we have seen non-routine question as a 2-mark question in paper one before. Right. So there's not really a huge difference in the SAQ. Okay, I hope I answered that question. Safia have a question. In order to achieve AL1 or AL2, do we have to score for AL1, AL2, and non-routine question? My answer is yes. Okay, your question is, if you want to score AL1 or AL2, do you have to score for AL1? Yes. Your basic questions, all the low-hanging fruits, you must get all the full marks. Okay, all full marks. Your AL2 question, try to get full marks also. Right, non-routine question cannot be 0 marks. Your non-routine question, you must at least get some marks from there. Yeah, AL1 or AL2, you need to get most of the questions correct. Yeah, including the basic and intermediate question. Okay, I hope that answer your question, Safia. Right. Okay. Thank you for staying back. If you have questions, you can keep them coming. Right. If not, then that is the end of my presentation today. I don't have any more slides to present. Right. Okay. So if you don't have any question, then I think it's okay for you to exit the webinar. But if you do have question, you can keep them coming in the chat. I will answer them. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you for the questions which came in. I think everyone who are still here benefited. Yeah. Bye, Safia. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If there's any question, you can put them in the Q&A. We will take it from there. Thank you very much.